I will try to give you an answer to the question line up there. How much do the coaches need to lead? And I will do that by giving you my point of view about leadership and coaching in hockey. And it's built on my own experience, maybe not built on scientific facts, but it's my opinion. And I've been into hockey coaching since 1976. And my background is mainly in hockey. I have a theoretical education from the University of Stockholm in economics, and also an education in hockey coaching by the Swedish Ice Hockey Association. And I've been a youth coach from 76 to 1979, and a junior coach 79 to 83. And then I've been coaching 83 to 2001 in the Swedish elite hockey. And from 2001, I've been hired by the Swedish Association, first as a director of development, and then as a director of national teams program, and for the last 3 years as a general secretary and chief executive officer. So I've been around a bit, and it's that experience that have given me my point of views about coaching and leadership. I will speak about three parts, three different parts. First, I will start a little bit philosophical about building a successful team. Then I will be a little bit more concrete, talking about hockey coaching, 10 practical pointers. And then in the end, the last third of my presentation will be about what defines a winner. So I will start with the first part there, building a successful team. And when you start to work with a team or a group of people, I think it's very important that you have a philosophy of what you want to do. And if it's not in hockey, you used to call it business ID, but in hockey I think it's of course more or it's better to use the term hockey philosophy. Then most people understand in hockey what we're talking about. First, it's important to know where you want to go with your mission and make a very clear mission statement. And I think it's important to figure out what kind of conditions you have. The quality of players, how much money you got, or what level. Is it a youth team or is it an elite level team? So in there, I think it's important to speak about optimal success and not maximal success. Because when a league starts, like most of the teams are aiming or putting up a goal to win the gold medal, but only one team can win the gold medal. And most of the teams haven't got the right conditions to be the gold medal winner. So I think optimal success is the best term to use. And always when you, for your team or for yourself, put up your hockey philosophy, I think it should be based on a long-term basis, because if you like drive to the left or to the right too early, then you have to build a new idea of where you want to go, and that's only get messy in the end. So on a long-term basis, you need to build your hockey philosophy. And then you have to sell it, of course, carefully, or try to sell it to your fellow mates, to your fellow coaches, and especially to the players. So I think establish it carefully is very important. And you need to be consistent also in this and not change your ideas on a day-to-day basis. And if you don't have this hockey philosophy, I think it's really hard to go further on and start your job. So this is a very important starting point in your job. And it doesn't have to be, maybe it sounds a little abstract here, but it has to do with how to practice, how to play, how to treat people and how to treat players. It's not more than that. When you have your hockey philosophy, I think you need to work with the recruitment part of your team. You need to bring in the right assistant coaches, the right players for your hockey philosophy. And then you need to do an analysis. What kind of players do you need, and also what kind of individuals do you need? Do you need people to lead? Do you need players to lead, or do you need players to follow more? Because you can't have too many leaders among the players in a team. You need to have a couple, but not too many, and you need to have players that follow. And you also have to look at the competence. Do you need goal scorers? Do you need good back checkers, or what kind of competence do you need in your team, and what kind of personality do you need? And you all the time need to work constant on this. You need to analyze your team like every day, because it's always a possibility to bring in new players, and it's always a possibility to maybe take away players. So therefore you need a constant analysis. And when you have the new, maybe the new fellow coaches or the new players coming to your team, it's really important with a good introduction to introduce the players in the way you think about hockey, to introduce them into your hockey philosophy. So taking care of new players and new coaches also is really important. And one system that is very useful is working with a mentor system that and it's good for the new players, and it's good for the mentors. So mentor, like maybe not such a huge mentor program, but a mentor program anyways is always important in a team. So you have your philosophy, you have your players and your coaches. Then you need to set the goals for your team. And it should be from everything on a really short term to a long term. Short term could be like next practice, could be next week, could be next shift or whatever. And long term is a couple of seasons ahead. And everything in between is important to goal set, I think. And I think it's also important to make a difference between like that big vision where you want to go and these smaller measurable targets. Because as a human being, you always need to check your plan, and therefore measurable targets is really important. And in this goal setting process, it's important to have a clear plan and not being too like foggy. And don't have too much translucent things going around. So a clear plan that everyone understands. It's really important. And it's also another fact that is important is to speak about and set the goals of the team, but also the individual goals. And individual goals doesn't have to be like how much you should score or whatever, or saving percentage or something like that. It could be very much other individual goals, like physical standard, or you could talk about psychological feelings and work with goal setting in that area too. And I think another thing that is really important is positive image, that you work with the players and try to teach them to see themselves as winners. Because as a human being, it's very common that you think about failure and you're nervous about losing and all that. So I think it's really important, as I said, to trying to learn the players to work with positive images. Then, when you have your goals, you need to build a team and trying to create the right kind of team. And in the beginning, most of the players and coaches are, if you look at a team as a circle with different layers, the core is the number one. The leaders are the ones that are leading the team, they are driving the team. And just outside this core, if you look at a team as a big circle, you have this layer with positive players and positive coaches. And outside that, in a team, you have these players that are both positive and negative. They are positive when they are winning and succeeding, and they are negative when they are losing and when they fail. And outside, like satellites almost, the fourth layer are the new and young and untested players. And in the beginning, most of the players that come into a team are in the fourth layer. And your mission is trying to and your goal is trying to have as many number ones and twos. And my experience is that in winning teams, you have most of the players are in these two core layers, number one and number two. And if you have too many players in the third layer and the fourth layer, you can never win anything. And this has nothing to do with elite hockey only. It's like that on all levels, in all groups of people, even in a classroom or whatever you're doing for work. So one method that is really successful, I think, working with this and trying to get people to the core is to reinforce good behavior and trying to eliminate bad behavior. And I think it's like reinforce good behavior is like pointing out when players are doing the right stuff, point it out to them. Too often, I think, we do just the opposite. We're pointing out when they are doing the bad things and when they are behaving in a bad way. We are pointing on that all the time. So I think best method is reinforce good behavior. Next point, and I think the most useful tool in coaching is communication. And communication goes on all the time in a dressing room or wherever you are. And I think it's important to communicate on an individual basis, also in a unit-wise basis, like with the fireman unit or whatever, and also with the entire team. And in that communication, I think 1 minute rule is very important, to at least speak 1 minute every day with every player and with every coach mate. So give them 1 minute each. And in the beginning, I think you need to make a system of that and maybe start with the ones that you not normally speak to and try to start to give them a minute a day. And it can be very easy stuff like just asking them how they feel or how they look at things or whatever. And all the meetings, because there are lots of meetings, as you know, in hockey, on the five-man unit level or in the team or whatever, should be short meetings, not too long meetings, because the long meetings tend to take away the focus on the important stuff. And people aren't like built sitting too long and listening too long at stuff. So short meetings is really good, according to my experience. But sometimes you need a little bit larger meetings, and they should be really good planned and not lots of bullshit talking and going around stuff too much. So a good plan for the larger meetings is important. And I think it's a right for all players to have an individual development plan. And therefore, you need to have individual dialogue with the players. And I will come back a little bit to the individual development plan thing later. And I think it's also important to build a creative climate in a team to encourage questions and discussions. And trying to make the players speak up and And as a coach, it's important to listen to the players and try to maybe focus on the positive things and the good things, and try to learn from the players as well. Because as a coach, you don't know everything. Some players know more than you as a coach. Rules and norms, very important. I think it's kind of framework for a team or for an organization. And that has to do with how we act towards each other and to the public also. And I think these rules and norms can differ from team to team, but I think it's important that you create them together. And in that sense, I think it's important with the fair play and respect policy as well. And especially today, when young people aren't as when I grew up, there were more fair play and respect from our parents and in school and so on. It's very different today. So I think this point with rules and norms are more important today than it was like 40, 50 years ago. And I think it's important, as the last sentence here, that they are very well communicated, and it should be like a living document as well. It's nothing that you just put up once and then it will be forever. You have to work with this like a couple of times every season. And also a player that feels well and have a good life outside the rink, will play better hockey on the rink. So I think it's important to trying as a coach to see the person and not only the player, and trying to help the player with all these practical matters around his own private life, and trying to help them with advice and practical stuff. Could be different if it's a young player, an old player, or whatever. So trying to see the person and not only the player is important. And then team spirit is very important to have in a team. All winning teams have a good team spirit. And as I've written here, I think it's important that the players feel comfortable with each other. They should like to come to the dressing room. They should like to be on a bus together, or wherever they are getting together. And they must work with trying to treat each other with respect, I think. And therefore the language is very important in the dressing room, and also in all kinds of situations where you get together. So I think a good language, and that's part of the job as a coach, teaching the players how to use the right language and how they treat each other and so on. One good thing, it says my experience, is to building a good solidarity in a team. That is to do other things together than just playing and practicing. And it could be many stuff, but doing other things than just seeing each other at the rink. That is a good way of building a winning team, I think, and a good team spirit. And as a coach, there are some stuff that are like specific in the way a coach should be, I think. And I think one of the most important things is working on create an environment with a good sense of development, trying to encourage development. And therefore, I think from a coach, a positive attitude is very, very important. If you should listen to a coach like every day or every second day, it's really hard to listen to a negative guy all the time. Like you get fed up after a week. So a positive attitude in a coach is very, very important. And I think it's also important for a coach to understand that all individuals are unique. A player is not just a player. They are so different from each other. So it's also important to treat the players as individuals, not just as a team member. And I think to have the opportunity to work with hockey is fantastic. And not having fun at work, I don't understand that. But some coaches doesn't look that way, and I think all the good coaches, they have fun at work. They love their work and they like their job. So that's a key factor, I think. And some key words here, as I've been written here is enthusiasm, commitment, and positive mentality. And the hard work is you can never point out the hard work too much. So you can't demand the players to work hard and do the stuff if you don't do it yourself. I think it's important to lead by example there. I think it's important maybe to be the first at work and the last that leaves to show the players that it's important with hard work. And positive feedback is always better than negative feedback, as I said before. And to win something, you have to risk something. You will never win something just thinking defensively. You also have to think offensively. So take some risks. And the conclusion, as Søren Kierkegaard once said and right, is true leadership starts with humility towards the one I want to lead. That's the first third of my presentation. And now I will switch a little bit more into hockey, and I have 10 practical pointers that have always been important to me in my hockey coaching career, and it's still important when I work with my management group and with my coaches. And I think practice planning is one of the most important things to work with as a hockey coach. And you have to make a plan for the season. And I know all coaches doesn't think that this is important. They take it a little bit day by day. But when you're standing down there in the shit, it's hard to have a view of things. So I think making this plan before the season is a key factor to build a successful team. And that has to do with how much training, what kind of training, and so on. So practice planning is where it all starts. And I listed a little bit on the bottom of these 10 slides that are coming now, couple of advices that you can see if you go into the Swi Hockey website. So you can find more there if you're interested in these pointers that I will show now. Basics in hockey is what everything is about originally. You need good wheels. You need to skate well. You need to handle the puck well. You need to protect the puck well. You need to be a good passer, a good shooter, a good scorer, and so on. So I think working with the basics, as golfers and tennis players do every day, should be part of the hockey training as well. So basics, you can never work too much with basics. If you have these tools, you can always be a good player in the end. And the younger you are, if you're a youth player and a junior player, you still develop so much from working with the basics. But even older players need to work with the basics. So never forget the basics. Don't only think about and work with tactics and strategies and so on. Work with the basics as well. And off-ice training is always important. Tarasov, probably the best coach ever, once said that 50% of all hockey training should be dry land. 50% of all hockey training should be dry land. And I have the same opinion. So I think it's important with the off-ice training, with skating imitation, stick work with wooden balls, stick handling, shooting ramps, and so on. And also playing lots of games, dry land. Could be basketball, street hockey, soccer, whatever. It's important to work with the hockey sense part of the development as well. And I think this goes with all kind of age groups. It does not only has to do with very young players. Also, elite players should work with this dryland training. And we have some examples at the bottom there at the website if you want to look at them later. Strength training is very important as well in hockey. And as the latest scientific fact says, the earlier you can start, the better. And there's a interesting professor working in Sweden, Professor Tonkonogi. He's pointed out that it is very important to start at least at the age of 7 with strength training. And it has nothing to do with like strength lifting or bodybuilding or whatever. It has to do with strength training for hockey. So you can see some examples on drills at our website as well. So strength training, 4th pointer. 5th pointer is on the ice, small area games. Could be anything from like 2-on-2 to 3-on-3 and all the way up to 5-on-5. And also, as Tarasov used back in the 50s and 60s, like 2 pucks, it could be direct passes, one-timers. You could have a puck with different colors on both sides. And if it's a blue side coming up, you have to pass the puck. And when the puck flips and turn over, if it's a red side, you're not allowed to pass it. And there are so many things of creating small area games. And it's really good for the mind. And in the end, when you have the basics, you have the physics and everything, the way how you can read and react in a game situation will decide if you will win or lose. And 6-pointer, make it fun. As I earlier said, a positive attitude is important, and it's very, 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 very important that it's fun to go to work every day. So one way of making it fun is that positive attitude, to work with that and trying to give the players that positive attitude every day. Positive feedback is always better than negative feedback. And the 7th pointer, communication. I spoke a little bit about it in the beginning of my presentation. And I think it's very, very important to talk with the players, to discuss with the players, to explain drills, and to listen to the players. All human beings need communication. And trying to teach players from early age to compete. Many players are afraid of competing. They probably world championships and everything according to basics and so on, but as soon as you get into competition or a compete situation, they get a little bit nervous, and they will never, if they don't feel comfortable with competing, they will never be a winner. So creating drills with competition is very important from an early age. Could be relays, could be shooting competition, technique tracks on time, and so on. So, and it's always important to teach the players that the effort is more important than the result. So make them comfortable with competing is important. And individual development plans, I think that's a right for all players. And in individual sports, it's a common thing, but in team sports, it's not so common. But I think it's the right for every player to have an individual development plan. And it doesn't need to be too complicated. It has to do with the basics, and it has to do with hockey tactics and physics and so on. So the players, you sit down with the players in the beginning of the season, and you're discussing back and forth their individual development plans, and then a couple of times during the season you do a follow-up on this, and this will help the players to develop on all levels, from the youngest one to the oldest ones, and from the low level to the elite level. It's the players' right. And then there are some things that you need to encourage the players to do. They should, as I said earlier, they should always work with the basics, and they should also take all opportunities to practice, not just the organized practices. They should practice as soon as they feel well and as soon as they have a possibility. And it could be anything. It doesn't only have to do with ice training. It could be like running after the bus or whatever, or jumping off the subway one station earlier and run the last part home or whatever. And you need to teach the players to take responsibility for their own development, and that they should create good habits with sleep, food, and so on. And it's also important to watch lots of sport, because you learn a lot of things when you're watching sport. So watching, it does not only have to be with hockey, it could be many other sports as well. And it's also important trying to be around the right kind of people. And that's really tough, because when you grow up, you get into a close group of friends, and if these friends don't have the right attitude and do the wrong things, it's not so easy for a young kid to trying to break out from your friends and do other stuff. But you must talk to this with your players, trying to have the right kind of people around you, because they can sink you a lot, sink you down if they are not the right kind of people. Last third of my presentation, what defines a winner? And this is important for coaches, this is important for players, and this is pretty simple, but it's very important, I think. Be on time, always be on time, because if you're not on time, you steal somebody else's time. And it's a very important signal value in this. So always be on time, and teach your players to be in time as well. Attitude is always important, because it shows commitment, and if you have the right attitude, you will perform better. And attitude always beats talent. Talent is very good to have, but if you have the right attitude, I think that's better. And especially in a game like hockey, attitude is so important. Work ethics is so important in hockey. I think you have to be well prepared when you go into a practice, to a game or whatever, into a season. And as Jack Reacher always says, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. It's a good way of living, I think. Work hard. All success starts with effort, and there are no shortcuts. So hard work is so important. And if you're a hard worker, you will have success in the end, for sure. Work ethics. When it's time to work hard. Turn off factors that interfere and focus on the task. Number 6. Positive body language. You know the body language of people that are negative, and these signals they are sending are so bad for you, and you always feel bad with people with bad body language around you. And the opposite, people with good body language is lovely to have around you, and they create an atmosphere where you want to be. So as a coach, show positive body language. Energy is nothing that you just get. Some people are more energetic than others, but you have to work with your own energy. And you have to prepare to get that energy. You need your sleep, you need your food, you need your exercise, your training or whatever. And you have to work with your mindset to create that high energy. So high energy is always important, and as a coach, it's a responsibility to have that energy and trying to make the players work with that energy as well. And passion is so important in a game like hockey. And passion lets people know lets people know that you care. And it's important to have when you face challenges. And it's an extra motivational factor to have passion, both for yourself and for others around you. And feedback is also important, and to be adoptive to feedback. So when the players have something to tell you and they have something that they want to change, listen to the players. Try to receive it and try to evaluate what they are saying. And using feedback is very valuable. And the last 10 pointer here is that extra effort. It doesn't cost much. You don't need to be that smart to put in that extra effort. But it can always be decisive to put in that extra effort. And that was the last one. And I have a couple of minutes for questions now.
Any questions so far?
Thank you, Tomo, for a good speech. Going into the tournament, you're playing the Danish tonight, and you're adding 2 star players, Henrik Lundqvist yesterday and Niklas Bäckström coming in today, I believe.
Yes, right.
What is that happening to the group when you're getting in 2 new players in the mid-tournament? Is they just coming in, or they explain their rules, and what happened in the group? Tell us.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky because Henrik Lundqvist coming in, and we already had 3 goalies. So 1 goalie was sent home yesterday, Svedberg, and
just like that, go home.
Yeah. But when it's no, someone bought him a flight ticket and told him to pack his bag also. So. But that's part of being a third goalie, and it's not so tricky when it's Henrik Lundqvist. It could have been trickier if he had been a goalie on a lower level, if you understand what I mean, Gunnar. But communication, the goalie coach and our head coach spoke to Svedberg about this, and the only thing he was sad about was not being able to stay to be around Henrik. See him practice together with him and hang around with him. That was what he was sad about. And both the other goalies, they were happy that Henrik were coming. They told us because they wanted to learn from Henrik. But of course, they wanted to be in the net. And when you bring in Henrik, he will be in the net every game. So communication with his players is very important. And Niklas Bäckström is coming in today. He landed an hour ago. And he's on that kind of level in Swedish hockey that everyone is happy about his coming. And he's such a nice guy. He's a humble guy, and he's not a cocky guy. And he's very, very, very popular among the other players. And these 2 guys, both Henrik and Bäckström, they know lots of the players since before. So it's a tricky situation when you got new players coming in to a team that's been together now for 1.5 months, and they are just coming in for 1 week. But they are on such a high level, so I don't think that's a problem. But speaking to the other players about this is important. And Grönborg, our head coach, had a long meeting about this before these players come. So I think trying to tell the others how he felt and ask the players how they feel about this. That's the best method of bringing in them in a good way.